Hey friends, welcome to day 5 of the 12 days of Christmas. And I hope you're having fun and I hope you're enjoying them. So we're going to go right into it today because some days I talk a little bit too long. So today I have to talk fast because this one can be a little bit long. So today is 5 golden rings. No, it's not 5 golden rings. It's the 5 books of the Old Testament, which is called the Pentateuch. And this just gives us the history of man's fall from grace. So that's big words, right? So there is, these 5 books are called something called the Pentateuch. That's another big word. So that's a Greek word. And it just means that it's the first 5 books of the Bible. And those 5 books are called Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. Now you're not going to remember all that. But maybe after, in the new year, we will talk about those books a little bit more. But you know a lot of stories from those books. When I start talking about them, you will realize that you do know. So those 5 books were written to the Jewish people, because the Jewish people is what in the Old Testament is the people that were God's chosen people, right? And so to the Jewish people, these books were written. And it was called the Torah for them. It's just another word for the first 5 books of the Bible. So you could be calling it the Pentateuch or the Torah. And it's written mostly by Moses. Moses writes it until the very end, and then he dies, so he can't finish it. But somebody else writes it. So what happens in the Pentateuch is that it just tells us the Jewish background and the beginning of our Christian story. That's what we learn from these 5 books. So in Genesis, we're just going to talk really quickly about each one. Genesis tells us about how God created the world, right, in 6 days, including Adam and Eve, and it tells us about how sin came into the world, right, and it tells us about the big flood where Noah's Ark was built. And then in Exodus, it talks about people having to exit, right, and and go into Egypt. So they had to exit Israel and go into Egypt. And we are introduced to Moses, and Moses was born a baby, and he was a basket. They put him in a basket in the river because the Pharaoh was going to kill all the little boys, and the Pharaoh's daughter adopted him. And it tells about Moses coming up on the burning bush, and how he took the people from Egypt to try and get them back to Israel. And in that book as well, we learn about the 10 Commandments. There's a lot of stuff in the book of Exodus, and you know a lot of the stories already. And then there's the book of Leviticus, and this book tells us about what we needed to do with the tabernacle. Not us, but the Jews. How the people of Israel had to how they needed to take care of the tabernacle and what happened there. And that was all about holy living, about laws. And so there's not just the 10 Commandments for the Jewish people in the Old Testament. There was 613 rules that people had to follow. And that was pretty hard to do all of that. So Leviticus is about rewards and punishments. And then we have the book of Numbers. And not just numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's called the book of Numbers. And in this book, we follow Israel's wandering through the desert, right? And how they didn't believe. Sometimes God provided all the things for them. He provided manna for them, and he provided remember the pillar of light, and that guided them at nighttime. All of those stories we learn from this book. But the people were unbelieving, and so sometimes they would believe in God and they would ask him for something, and then God would provide it, and then they would not believe in him again. So they were wandering in the desert for a long time. And then we get to Deuteronomy. That's a big word, Deuteronomy. Can you say that? So in this book, it's Moses teaching his people. Moses is teaching them. So there's a lot of speeches from Moses, and he's telling them to stop wavering from their faith. So you have to believe in God. You're out in the wilderness here, and God is taking care of you. And then they would get bored, and they didn't want the manna anymore. They wanted something else, and they wanted things that they couldn't have. And they even wanted to go back to Egypt, where they were slaves. And Moses is telling them no, that they need to follow, and they need to get back to Israel, to the promised land, right? And so Moses, we hear about Moses and how he guides them through the 40 years in the wilderness. And they had to stay in the 40 years because they weren't listening and they weren't following God. So in that process, poor Moses died. He didn't even make it. But God showed him the promised land. He took him up on this Mount Pisgah, and he showed him the promised land. But because of the sins of the people, and they weren't following the rules, Moses never got to enter there. But the people did. The people did get back home to Israel. And so the Pentateuch is not just our backstory, the story of what happened in the Bible for the Jews and Christians. It is where we come from. It's our ancestry, right? So that's very important that we know those books. So day 5 is the Pentateuch, or the Torah. So it's the 5 books, the first 5 books of the Bible. So hope you enjoy the afternoon, or your day, and the rest of the videos and songs that you're going to sing after I finish speaking, and that you will have a fantastic day. So God bless you. Enjoy your day.